Now to introduce our next honorary doctorate recipient, I'd like to bring forward Mr. Russ Rogers, the Program Chair for UAT Cyber Studies. Russ?
Good afternoon. I'm Russ Rogers. I'm the Program Champion for Network Security, also one of the professors, and I have the distinct honor of introducing not only a very good friend, but somebody that I feel has had an inalterable impact on network security and our hacking community in general. What I try and tell my students in our program is that, you know, it's important that you recognize opportunity. Sometimes you don't start out deliberately to change the world, and some of those accidents that you run into can become a path forward for the rest of your life, or at least for a very long time, and this is what's happened to Jeff. You know, back when Jeff and I were young, bulletin board systems were kind of the thing, and the internet was still very wet behind the ears. And the relationships that Jeff had made him part of a number of different bulletin board system networks. And one of those was going down, and Jeff and this individual decided to throw a party. And much to Jeff's surprise, later on, this other individual backed out, leaving Jeff holding the bag. Jeff went forward with his plans, and what Jeff told some students today was that I'm going to do the conference in Las Vegas because at least if nobody comes and I blow all of my money that I've saved, at least I'm still in Las Vegas. So that was DEFCON 1. This summer, that'll be 24 years that he's been running DEFCON. DEFCON is the world's largest hacker conference. I can't give you specific numbers or Jeff will beat me about the head and shoulders with a bag of soap. But we have a lot of attendees, we have a ton of hackers, and we have a whole lot of stuff that comes out. And so it is my honor to introduce Jeff Moss, who has changed the way industry works. And so, Mr. Moss, if we could please, sir.
Thank you for not totally embarrassing me. I'll buy you a beer later for that fantastic intro. So it is kind of a shocker for me to be here, and it's a great honor. And so when Russ mentioned that this was happening, I was surprised because I'm going to echo a lot of themes that we've heard from other speakers. I'm just going to say it in my own way. And while I sound like I might be speaking toward the information security crowd or the hacking crowd, really I'm speaking to you all. And I graduated, I won't tell you when, with a criminal justice background. And my plan was to be an FBI agent and go save the world. And X-Files hadn't come out yet, so it had nothing to do with that. And like a lot of things in my life, it didn't work out that way. I typed up, yes, I used a typewriter. I typed up my forms for the FBI. I sent them in to the field office in Spokane, Washington, and they got lost. So there I am, summer is coming to an end, and I need to figure out if this is going to be my job or not. So I typed them all back up. I send them in a second time, and finally I get a call from the FBI. Mr. Moss, I see you've applied. Tell us, what is your vision? Well, you know, I want to help people. I have this criminal justice background. I think that I can make a change. Like, no, your eyesight. What's your vision? And I'm like, yeah, it's 20/20 in one eye and 20/60 in the other, uncorrected. Sorry, that's not good enough. Goodbye. Click. And that part of my life was over. It's like, that was really quick. I better go on to plan B. But I didn't have a plan B at the time. But what I did do is I went back to Seattle, and I kept following my passion. My passion was bulletin board systems. I ended up getting a job. I started applying for law schools everywhere. And during that time, between graduation and law school, I started, this conference came about, DEFCON. And so what I did is I was pursuing my passion, the con, but I really thought that wasn't a serious thing. The serious thing is a job, you know, a professional career, something that my parents recognized, law or engineering. And when I started, there was no career in this. You just have to remember, there was no Amazon, there was no Google. If you wanted to learn about security or hacking, you had to find somebody. You had to find a mentor. You had to find somebody willing to invest time in you, which meant you had to be worthy of their time. And so very early on, I ended up learning skills that I didn't even realize I was learning at the time about relationships and how you actually become a good student, and then how you're expected to mentor others. Because you always need to find people smarter than you are so you can learn. And it's sort of your job to help people who are less smart than you because they'll get better. And as a team, you can pretty much break into anything. So through this trajectory, this career, I've sort of watched the whole industry evolve into what it is now. And I ended up going to law school, and I ended up dropping out halfway through because I realized law was not for me. It was my friends who were fantastic at law had a certain passion that I didn't have. And it was really painful for me to acknowledge that I was not going to be a lawyer. That wasn't for me. And when I embraced that change, and I went back to Seattle, and I started a startup. I went bankrupt on that one almost. I lost all my money. But going to law school, I learned so much in life that helped me in all my future endeavors. I sort of understood contracts, and I could communicate with lawyers, and that turned out to be really valuable because now I could speak at a certain level in business. And running my own business, hiring and firing my own employees, dealing with the state, dealing with lawyers, that was a whole nother set of skills that I didn't even know I needed, but it turns out in life, those skills treated me really well. And for you now, it's really exciting. Like, I wish I had your opportunity because in those early days, I would spend more than half my time trying to find the knowledge before I could even act on it. For you, you have almost instant access to the knowledge. But your challenge is going to be, now what do you do with it? Right? You have almost unlimited opportunities. And so, from my perspective, we spent 15 years yelling at companies, speaking out loud to government, saying, if you'll only listen to us, we will help you. Companies, listen to us, and we'll tell you about your risks. We'll tell you about your threats. Government, if you only listen to us, you'd have better policies that weren't so brain dead around privacy. Well, now they're listening, right? So it's a mixed bag. You be careful of what you wish for. So you're graduating into a world where everybody wants advice. Everybody wants to know what they should do. How should they behave to be safe? What should they buy? What should they build? Governments want to know what kind of policies. So you're going to be in great demand. But it's really important that you acknowledge, like, what you say will have consequences. And so I'm going to back up some of the messaging we heard earlier. As hackers and as researchers, you're sort of the white blood cells of our society. Like, companies are not going to tell us what's secure and what's not in their products. Criminals aren't going to tell us how they're breaking in. Companies aren't going to tell us problems. Governments aren't going to tell us problems. It's up to you. It's up to the academics and the hackers to take things apart and tell us what's really going on. What are the real risks we're taking? When you buy that internet-connected toaster, is it also part of a botnet? Like, that's not going to be on the packaging when you buy the thing. So you're fulfilling what I view as a really important role in society. And it's going to be rocky roads because society's not quite okay hearing truth from problems with what they're selling. Companies might not like hearing the truth. And finally, you're going to work on some really important systems. I mean, the next billion people are coming online. We're adding billions of devices on Internet of Things. What you work on is going to have consequence. It's going to impact people's lives. And you're going to be put in a position of trust with access to data and financial information, personal information, and you need to act in a really ethical way because, like what was said earlier, what I found, the lessons I learned in my life, was that you build your reputation early. Right? It's really hard to repair your reputation. It's sort of like you take the stairs up and the elevator down, right? So you've got to be really careful when you build your reputation, but it pays dividends. I mean, I really pride myself on being able to do a contract with just a handshake. For me, it saves me a lot of money. I don't have to involve a lot of lawyers. The downside for me is when I shake your hand, I really mean it. And I've had to pay out, I've had to do a lot of things that I didn't want to have to do, but hey, I had agreed to it. And in the end, it built my reputation in the industry, and it made business later on in life so much easier for me. So, it's kind of trite to say, but hey, really think about your reputation. And I want you to take risks. Now is the time for you to take risks, not when you're my age, not 20 years from now. Now is your time to try things out, do things differently. Not when you don't have so much, you don't have children in a house and all these other things going on. Now's the time to be nimble and explore things. And also remember, I had to be a generalist. I had to know a lot about a lot to be relevant. Nowadays, you're judged on your technical skill in a very steep vertical. You're specialized. You're like that guy that can render the fire the best on the lake. You're the guy that knows everything about obfuscated JavaScript. Well, that's really good because you're going to stand out. That's how you're going to be known in your team and maybe in your company. But in able to succeed, you're going to have to be a generalist. You're going to have to be able to see the forest for the trees, and you're going to have to be able to explain it. Because you're not doing this just for the fun of it. You're doing this for business, or you're doing it for the government. And they need to understand where what you're doing, how it fits in the big picture. And for me, that's my ability to communicate technology has actually turned out to be a superpower that I didn't know I had until I was put in that position. So, a couple other thoughts. One, if you're in cyberspace, if you're in the cybersecurity realm, don't tell yourself you're going to solve security. Just don't do it. It's not healthy. Doctors don't become doctors and tell themselves they're going to cure cancer. They'd go home every night really frustrated with themselves. They pace themselves. They tell themselves they're fighting cancer. This is a long, drawn-out war. And it allows them to pace themselves in a certain way that they don't get frustrated, they don't make rash decisions, and they don't burn out. This is the beginning of a long career. You don't have to do it all in the first year. And my final advice is when I've had to hire or fire people, these are the things I look for when I'm hiring. And some of them are trick questions. It's really important that while I'm interviewing someone, if they never admit to me that they don't know something, that's a danger sign. Like, there's no way you can know everything. So if you can't admit to me that you don't know something, then I don't know if I'll take a risk on you, because I don't want you bluffing. You've got to be able to tell me when you don't know. And that's okay, because we can get you help. We can get you training. We can do other things. But if you can't even admit to yourself you don't know something, that's a danger sign. Right? It's okay to fail. That's what tech is. I mean, how many times do you have to compile something until it actually runs? Failing is normal. You have to embrace it. And as I travel the world, it's really fascinating. In a lot of countries, it's not okay to fail. Right? This is a pretty American characteristic. It sets us apart in this area. We embrace our failure, and a lot of other people don't. So I want you to be proud about your failure and learn from it. Finally, you're going to change jobs a whole lot, and that's fine. I want you to change jobs, and I want you, at each step of the way, learn something new. Don't just keep repeating, because ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to build a collection of knowledge, a body of skills, and through these skills, you're going to become not only specific, you're going to become more a generalist. And that's the sweet spot. I think if you talk to any one of us that have had a lot of success, we got really deep in a certain area, and then later on in our career, it allowed us to branch out. And so don't feel pressure to do that now, but just know somewhere on your roadmap, poke your head up, look around, and understand the giant system that you're operating in, because you might find a pond over there that looks more appealing. And if you can talk to your managers, you can talk to your boss, or you can start something up because you have that knowledge, you'll be all the more successful for it. So, you have all the technical tools and skills you need to succeed. What really comes next is up to you. And you're not alone, because you have this fantastic UAT family that dates back to the early 1999, and they're here to help support you. So with that, I want to congratulate you on your success, and I'll see you at the reception later. Thank you so much for having me.